So we have this ruthless leader who has shown that he will stop at nothing.
Very young, very inexperienced, and very insecure.
Kim Jong-un is creating an almost godlike image for himself at home.
Now he's immediately recognizable. Everybody knows who Kim Jong-un is.
Rocket Man is on a suicide mission for himself.
North Korea is a problem.
He's now rattling the world with a new threat of a nuclear test explosion.
10 years ago, people would have struggled to identify him. We knew very little about him. Times have been very, very hard for North Koreans, particularly over the last couple of years. A series of natural disasters, food shortages, UN sanctions.
North Korea is again facing a failed harvest.
Reports suggest food prices have tripled in a year.
And a lot of analysts who we speak to say they are really just one natural disaster away to another famine.
This kid that we knew nothing about has actually surprised us all in his longevity. Towards the end of 2011, got quite surprising news that Kim Jong-il had died. And then suddenly this young man, this untried and untested leader of a nuclear-armed nation, propelled into the international spotlight. There was speculation that his regime would collapse quickly and catastrophically. That didn't happen. He had been preferred by his father over his siblings, apparently because of his ruthless streak. He demonstrated that with purges of party officials back home, including his own uncle. But he's also widely believed to have been responsible for the death of his own half-brother, Kim Jong-nam, who was poisoned fatally at Kuala Lumpur airport in 2017. He's borrowed heavily from his grandfather in terms of his overall look, but he's also modernized the image of a North Korean leader.
He's ordered construction of amusement parks and ski resorts, but it's got to be his friendship with American basketball star Dennis Rodman that's generated the most buzz.
He cried at his father's funeral at a time when we knew very little about him. Then, almost 10 years later, he made this tearful apology to the North Korean people about the state of the economy.
아직 노력과 정성이 부족하여 우리 인민들이 생활상 어려움에서 벗어나지 못하고 있습니다.
Which again, I think, is a departure with the style of his father and grandfather. In terms of North Korea's nuclear ability, 2017 really stands out. There were a couple of nuclear tests, but also what it described as its first intercontinental ballistic missile. Even American analysts accept now, and the American military as well, that particular missile was capable of striking Guam in the Pacific and possibly even the west coast of the US mainland, somewhere like Seattle. He uses those missiles as his bargaining chip. Missile launches are messages that are supposed to go right to the heart of the White House, say, look, this is what we can do. It's time for us to sit down and talk. I don't think it's a stretch to say that was a big contributing factor in bringing Donald Trump to the negotiating table a year later. I think a lot of people didn't quite believe that first summit in Singapore was going to happen until he and Trump appeared on stage and shook hands and smiled and started engaging in some form of small talk. It was an incredible moment. I mean, it was a first.
여기까지 오는 길이 그리 쉬운 길은 아니에요. 우리한테는 우리 발목을 잡는 그 과거가 있고 또 그릇된 풍경과 관행들이 우리 때로는 우리 눈과 귀를 가리고 있었는데 우리 모든 것을 이겨내고 이 자리까지 왔습니다.
Everybody will remember watching Donald Trump arriving in South Korea and then Kim Jong-un taking his arm and leading him over the demarcation line that separates North and South Korea. Again, just an incredible moment, huge symbolism. Just the very fact that the leader of North Korea and the President of the United States were sharing the diplomatic stage was incredible.
Kim is clever. He's using this moment to sabotage his image. This man runs concentration camps, deliberately starves people for control, and assassinates members of his own family. "10
years on, He seems as stable in his role as North Korean leader as he ever has. And over that decade, he's both shown elements of continuity, of borrowing heavily from the example set by his father and grandfather, but he's also made efforts to what you would loosely describe as undergo a process of modernization in North Korea, at least in the way he presents himself as its leader. He was actually surprised us all in his longevity and his ability as a statesman.